Hey everyone, Paul Jensen here, and welcome to the first matchup prediction episode of the Danker Family Fantasy Football Podcast, DFFFP. I was hoping to get this done last night, right after reviewing all the rosters and post-draft review kind of thing, but unfortunately ran out of time, so I'm trying to get this out real quick before the season starts. Right now, at the time of this recording, it's about an hour or so before kickoff for the Lions-Chiefs game. Just wanted to go ahead and dive right in here. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. But qu one quick thing that I noticed before we get into the matchups, um, ESPN has their final standing projection already. I mean, hasn't even been a day since the draft, but according to ESPN, they think Uncle Tom will be number one. Look at that. I do agree that Uncle Tom has the best starting lineup in our league, at least on paper and from draft day on. So we'll see how it goes. They have Dad, Nashville Packers second, Garrett third. They had Carol at four, but then they moved her back to five, and they had Mom at five and moved her up to four. So that's a little interesting. I don't know. Maybe Mom paid off those ESPN fantasy refs and to move her up one and get her one leg up on her sister. So we'll see how that goes. And then Dallas Donuts, Adrian, they have him at six. Little surprising. I thought they'd have him a little bit lower. Um, if me at seven, I mean, fair. Like I said, I did pretty bad job last night, from the middle of the draft on. And it's going to be tough to repeat, three-peat hopefully, but we'll see. And then they have John at eight. I mean, that one, it makes sense right now, but I feel like, only because he drafted so many, high risk, high reward players. So we'll see how that goes. And then same thing with Carrie and Ben. They had Carrie at nine, but now she's last. And then they had Ben last, but now he's nine. So I don't know if Ben did the same thing that Mom did. I don't know what who you guys know at the ESPN fantasy offices, you guys, because I need that number. All right. So moving on to the matchups. Like I said, the season starts in about an hour or so. So at the time of this recording, this is all prior to any other transactions that have been made. There haven't been any signings. You guys are actually signing players right now. But any sort of adding of players or dropping of players or any sort of trades, nothing like that has happened as of the making of this episode. So I'm just going into what is currently showing. So the first matchup, I have myself, Phoenix Cheeseheads facing Garrett, the NC Fire Ants. And as Dad said, you got to be careful of those Fire Ants. They are dangerous. So I will head into this matchup respecting my opponent majorly. So just looking at the starters, I mean, he's already going to have, I think this is going to be for the most part, most of the season, I'm going to be, down on the QB. Um, but who knows? I mean, maybe Tua goes off this year and it has a nice comeback year. So you just never know. But right now, I think Garrett does have the advantage at quarterback. I I I like his running backs, Jones and Pierce, but I'm going to go ahead and say that I have a little bit of more of the advantage. Derrick Henry, the Titans are very run focused. They don't have many receiving. They don't have good receiving depth after Hopkins. I mean, Traylon Burks is a young guy, so maybe he can do well. They have Okonkwo at tight end, but Derrick Henry's old, reliable, really good, powerful, solid running back to have in your fantasy. And then Najee Harris, this one I'm kind of going back and forth on my mind. Do I want to have Miles Sanders start and Derrick Henry off the bench just because it's the 49ers that he's playing, who's top my defense on it. But we'll see how that goes. I might make some changes, so I'm not gonna give away any secrets, but uh, I do think these two combine. Aaron Jones, I like him. You're one of my favorite Packers, but I do think I do have the edge in the running back game. Receivers, I mean, Justin Jefferson's going to beat anyone, even if I have Devonta Adams. And then he also has DK, who I think is better than Keenan. So he's got the edge in the receiving group. Tight end, I think it's a little bit of a wash. Kyle Pitts is a lot younger than Dallas Goedert, but Dallas Goedert is, since he has better overall offense around him, better quarterback. Dallas Goedert's got the ability to make more plays. Kyle Pitts, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those, he could have a big game or it could be either way, but I will say it's kind of a push just because Kyle Pitts' ceiling is a lot higher than Goddard's, but in terms of production, I'd say they're about the same. And then Mike Evans, Miles Sanders. I'm actually gonna give Miles Sanders the edge on this one, just because Mike Evans is now playing with a different quarterback in Baker Mayfield. Some people think, Bucks are going to take a giant step back this year. No more Tom Brady. But we'll see how that goes. Mike Evans is still number one receiver caliber. He did great with Jameis Winston, so why wouldn't he do great with Baker? But I still like the matchup Miles Sanders has against Atlanta. Atlanta's defense doesn't really impress me that much. I mean, they have a good cornerback in AJ Terrell, but that's not defending the run. So I do like Miles Sanders there against, and plus the Panthers are going to be running the ball a lot with, especially starting Bryce Young, rookie QB. They want to kind of ease him into the league. So Miles Sanders is going to get his opportunity. And then defense, I got to go with 49ers. The Dolphins defense for Garrett. Chargers are a high octane offense. Herbert, Eckler, Keenan Allen, like it's in LA too. So it's going to be tough for Miami. Not to say they won't do good, but Chargers usually tend to choke or have their bad offensive performances later in the season. So I'm going to go with San Francisco. And then the kicker, it doesn't really matter, honestly. I mean, they're both pretty good kickers, so we'll put that as a wash. So overall, I gave Garrett the edge at quarterback, receivers. Um, I think that's it because we washed a tight end and kicker. So um, very close. And I know ESPN has a 50-50. So yeah, there you go. Exactly. Very close. But I do think I will take this one. I know a lot of people are like, of course, Paul, you're gonna pick yourself. Well, I just going off it, and plus it's one of those like just because you have more players in your team that are projected to outscore the other, you could have almost every single one of your players outscore their opponent on their side, like every running back outscore every running back. But it doesn't matter if they're all outscoring them by one, and then they have someone on their team gets 30 points more than a certain player on your roster, then it outweighs it. So but I'm gonna go ahead and pick myself. So sorry, Garrett. But looking at the bench, we both got good. You know, Terry McLaurin is an option. I could play it at flex if I wanted to. He is coming off an injury, so we'll see how that goes. Jamal Williams was another thought of playing. Um, Cam Akers maybe, but I'm just gonna stick with these guys as of right now. Barring any sort of injuries. So I'm gonna give myself the edge there. Moving on to the next game, we got Mom against Adrian. Um, this one has Mom slightly ahead, and I think that's wrong. I think Mom is going to be the clear winner. Not, I know I've been bashing Adrian, and I promise, Adrian, I will give you some love. I promise. But for now, I just gotta go with Mom. I mean, Josh Allen's clearly better than Deshaun Watson. Austin, and he's playing a divisional opponent, someone he's really familiar with. And I know the Jets have a good defense. And uh, Cleveland, who are they playing? They're playing Cincinnati. I mean, they're both playing division opponents, but um, Josh Allen he's in the MVP category almost every year. Deshaun Watson's got a lot of pressure on him this year, because if the Cleveland Browns don't do well this year, then they're going to be in cap space hell. So I'm not sure how it's going to work there. In terms of the running back room, I also like mom's running backs. Eckler, you know, I think personally probably the top running back in fantasy. I know Christian McCaffrey was selected before him in fantasy, but I do think Eckler's going to be the best running back in fantasy this year. And then Alexander Madison, full-time starter. He might be worse than these two, but just having Eckler, I think just overall beats these two. So we'll just say Eckler wins this one by a lot, and J.K. Dobbins beats Madison by a little bit. But overall, Mom's got the edge on running back. And then receiver, I think Mom's got the edge on one receiver, but in terms of the groups of receivers, Adrian's receivers are better. He's got Drake London. He's got Stephon Diggs down in flex. That's interesting. I don't know what that's all about, but either way, he's gonna be playing. I mean, I guess it's because he is a Monday night player, so never mind. I didn't think about that. Duh. Yeah, you kind of want to move your late playing players to flex. That's just not something no real secret there. But so Adrian will be better in flex and receiver, honestly. Christian Kirk's an okay receiver, but he's going to be overshadowed by Calvin Ridley, and plus Drake London's number one for Atlanta. He's going to get a lot of passes his way. Same with CeeDee Lamb. They're both star receivers for their team. And then tight end, it depends on health. Adrian's technically got the better tight end, playing an easier opponent. So I like Adrian's tight ends here. Then we go to defense. I like the Cowboys defense over the Eagles. The Eagles, I mean, they were a Super Bowl team last year, but it wasn't because of their defense. It was because of their offense. They have, one of the most dynamic offenses in football, especially having Jalen Hurts at quarterback. Um, the Cowboys are playing the Giants, and I know that Giants made the playoffs last year. Giants have Saquon Barkley. I know that. Cowboys defense, though, really stepping up this year. I can see that. I can see them being easily the best defense in football. They kept Dan Quinn as their defensive coordinator, made some moves there. And then two best kickers, honestly, Harrison Butker and Justin Tucker. So that's a wash. Um, and bench looks a little surprising. I mean, Adrian has DeAndre Hopkins, who was supposed to be a starter, I think, but then he moved Drake London to starter. So that's what, at least that's what I assume. But yeah, overall, I like Mom's matchup better mainly because of Allen, Eckler, and the Cowboys defense. Um, and then also Garrett Wilson having a potential to give her some late points on the last day. I mean, they both have receivers on the last day, but I think by then Mom's team will be pulling out ahead. Then we got Carrie and Carol, goddaughter versus godmother. Here we go. Even Stevens doesn't have the even number T Higgins, but it's all right. I already discussed that yesterday. Looking at this, Carol's got the better quarterback. Carol has I'm gonna say Carey actually has the better running back too. I was gonna say Carroll at first, but if you're looking at just the combo, Chubb and Gibbs, I mean, we haven't seen Gibbs play. He is playing tonight, so I'm very interested to see how he does with run. He will be splitting time with David Montgomery. However, Gibbs is going to be a more dynamic running back. He's more of a pass catcher. David Montgomery's more of like a run the ball downhill, like power back. Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy who you can use him kind of like a DeAndre Swift guy last year, where he's catching balls out of the backfield and he's young, he's athletic. Rashad White and Joe Mixon are both clear and obvious number one running backs, so that helps Carroll. But I think having Jahmyr Gibbs is his volatility and Nick Chubb, I think that wins out. And then I think Carroll has the better overall receiver in Jamar Chase. Carey has the better receiver combo. I'm not a big fan of Deontay Johnson. Yeah, I just think that I mean I love Amon-Ra St. Brown, as you heard me say last night, and T Higgins being uh, Jamar Chase's backup, interesting, like number two. So I do like Carey's receiver combo more. Now Jamar Chase has the ability to actually go high, like you know Jamar Chase in terms of fantasy, he has that ability to get like 20 plus, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is more of like a consistent 15 plus kind of guy. And then T Higgins, it's just a week by week thing. Sometimes he does really well, sometimes he doesn't. So it is possible that Carroll's overall in receiving does better, but um, yeah, I'm gonna go with Carey here. Tight end, I think it's a little bit of a wash. These are both kind of meh tight ends, but I mean nothing against them. You pick them, they're yours. So do what you will with them. Uh, at flex, I'm gonna go with Aunt Carroll. Nothing against Brees Hall or anything, but Isaiah Pacheco is my biggest sleeper this year fantasy season. So and plus Brees Hall is splitting time and he's coming off an injury too, so he'll be on like a snap count. So we'll see how that goes. And again, this could change, right? Like Carey could change your lineup, whatever, by Sunday, and it could be a totally new lineup. But I think Pacheco outs Brees in this one. Commanders defense versus Steelers defense. This is Commanders all day. Steelers are playing San Francisco. I mean, they got so many good players on offense. Debo, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. They have a ton of weapons. Elijah Mitchell and Brock Purdy. Who knows? Maybe he'll step up this year. We'll see how it goes. But or maybe Sam Darnold will come in and and tear up that Steelers defense. I know that would make Carroll so mad. But yeah, but either way, the Commanders are playing the Cardinals. The Cardinals have no shot at winning most of their games this year. I mean, they're going to have like maybe two or three wins this season if things go well. Like I mean, they're just I think and plus the Commanders have an amazing front seven, so they're going to get a lot of pressure on Josh Dobbs and the Cardinals are not going to look good against Washington, in my opinion. So I give that to Carey, and then I'm also going to give Carey the edge on kicker because Matt Gay, the Colts. Yes, Matt Gay is a good kicker. Unfortunately, he's with the Colts, who are kind of in like a weird rebuild question mark mode. Like with Anthony Richardson, young quarterback. Not a lot of weapons on offense. Their running backs, without Jonathan Taylor, it's not looking good there. And I feel like their offense isn't going to be, giving Matt Gay enough opportunities to make some kicks. So I think Tyler Bass gives Kerry the edge in this. Some options. Kerry could go with DJ Moore instead of Reese Hall at flex. That's just something. I mean, again, this is my opinion. You do not have to do this, but you could. It's possible. Same with James Cook. He's going to be a full-time starter in Buffalo now that Singletary's gone. Yeah, and so overall, I'm going to go with Kerry, just edging out Carroll. Like I said, I do like Carroll's quarterback and star receiver. Uh, Actually, well, I didn't think about that as Pacheco too. So this is going to be a lot closer than I think, actually. I'm still going to give it to Carey just because I like the Amon-Ra T. Higgins combo with and just like having everything fall into place for Carey week one, having the Commanders face the Cardinals. Um, Nick Chubb going to go off against Cincinnati. He tends to do well against Cincinnati too, and plus Trevor Lawrence playing the Colts. And the Patriots defense is kind of hard to figure out sometimes. So I think Jalen Hurts overall this season will do great, but week one, I think Trevor Lawrence has got the edge on in terms of just his matchup. So I'm gonna actually switch that edge to Carey. So I think Carey will actually, even though ESPN thinks Carroll will win, I'm gonna give that to Carey. Now, before I move on, yes, I will be holding myself accountable to these picks. So I'm gonna rewatch these once all the games are done this weekend, and I'm going to call myself out when I was wrong, and I'm going to give myself credit when I was right. So I promise, 100%. Going on to the fourth game, we have Ben versus my dad. Um, Still with that team name, Ben. I'm going to keep saying it until you make a change. But yeah, Ben's got Justin Fields. Dad's got Lamar Jackson. Um, Packers defense. I mean, I know Justin Fields, you know, everyone's saying, I mean, like he's got talent, right? Like he's fast, he's mobile. He's got a better receiver now, and they have to, and the Bears have to be better than last year. They were really bad last year, but the Packers defense tends to do well against him. They really know how to um, make him think that there's someone open, and he throws him right into coverage. And Jair Alexander has a lot of picks off of him, so I'm gonna go with Lamar Jackson. He's facing Houston. He's the better quarterback in my opinion, anyway. But even with the matchup, he's facing Houston, who's a young rebuilding team. Now, Houston does have the D'Amico Ryans as their head coach, who's a huge defense guy, but even then, like they're young, they're rebuilding. Lamar Jackson's going to have a field day in that game, in my opinion. Going to the running backs, I this one's hard for me. Actually, it's not too hard now that I have a second look at it. Um, Ben's got the two better receivers, especially with matchups. I do like Pollard and Connor throughout the whole season, like, if you in totality, but just for this week one matchup, um, you know, James Conner might struggle a bit versus that front seven of Washington. And I mean, Tony Pollard will do well, but I think ETN does well against the Colts, and I think McCaffrey has a great game against Pittsburgh. So I'm gonna go with Ben's running backs, and then we have receiver. I also like Ben's receivers. Sorry, sorry, Dad. I mean, Debo and Chris Olave are two really good receivers. The problem with Debo is there's too many options for Brock. It's just he's got Kittle, he's got Ayuk, he's got C-Mac, he's got Elijah. So it's just like, and again, Debo's one of those guys where he could go off for 20 plus points or he could have five. You never know. But for this matchup, Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be a lot easier for San Francisco to run against, I think. And I do think Chris Olave will have a good game. AJ Brown going to get majority of the cat. Now they also have Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, so you could make that argument too. Hey, what about that? So it's very similar if you look at it both ways. Chris Olave and Calvin Ridley are both the clear cut number one receivers. I mean, AJ Brown and Deebo Samuels are both receiver one on depth chart. But they both also have other options competing with them a lot more than the other two. Um, but just to kind of, I think this is more of a destiny thing because Dad had Calvin Ridley, who was really bad for him because of the whole, uh, only played like 3 games for him and left. But I think Calvin Ridley's going to come back and haunt you, Dad. Sorry to say it. So I'm going to give Ben the edge on wide receiver. Tight end, Dad, Travis Kelce's listed in your. I don't think so. I'm going to assume that Dad makes this change here because we're running up on 50 minutes before kickoff for the Lions Chiefs game, and he has Travis Kelce. So I'm going to assume that Dad makes a change and puts in Dalton Schultz. And now with that change, I do think Njoku's a better tight end. Although, actually, never mind. Yeah, Njoku. Yeah, he's facing the Ravens defense. Ravens have one of the best defenses in all of football. Um, and nothing wrong with the Bengals defense, but Njoku's seems to be more of like a top tier-ish, not like top five or anything, but I think he's just outside the top five. Um, and plus just the fact that it's not Kelce. If it was Kelce, this would easily be Dad's, but I'm gonna go with Ben tight end. And then at flex, Chris Godwin, Michael Pittman. I mean, this one's a wash to me. I mean, even though Michael Pittman is the clear number one and Chris Godwin splits number one reps with Mike Evans, or I mean, not reps, but you know what I mean, like number one options. Uh, the Colts offense is going to be very, fresh. I mean, not fresh, but it's going to be very, raw. It's not going to look super great in my opinion. Um, so it could go either way. I mean, Michael Pittman has the opportunity to have more catches for sure, but with Chris Godwin's talent, um, yeah, I just think it's going to be a wash. And then as far as the defenses go, this will be interesting because Ben's got the Packers defense with Justin Fields and they're playing each other. So who do you root for, Ben? So that'll be an interesting a little conundrum there. So, but yeah, Packers usually play well against the Bears, so I like that for Dad. But then, or I mean for Ben. And then for Dad, he's got the Ravens defense against Houston. So I think the Ravens they'll be a little bit better than the Packers just because Houston's completely rebuilding and the Bears have this potential of being better than they were last year. Since Justin Fields has a true number one receiver now and a little bit better of an O line. So we'll see how it goes. I think the Ravens will do better. Will do better. And then kicker, most of the kickers will be washes, but um, yeah, I think this one's also a wash. I mean, Greg Joseph's going to have plenty of opportunities versus Tampa Bay. Evan McPherson's going to have plenty of opportunities. This kicking, I'm not really going to get too into. But yeah, and then just one quick look. Dad's making the right choice picking the Ravens against the Saints. Now, you could have used either one. Like if you had just the Saints defense, that would have been a fine option to play. But you got to go with the team versus um, Houston because Houston's completely rebuilding, rookie quarterback, rookie head coach. So I like that for Dad. So overall, I picked Dad for QB, but I picked Ben for running back, receiver, and tight end. Wash here, Dad edges out here. So I'm gonna think I'm kind of agreeing with ESPN with Ben just barely ahead of Dad here. Um, so yeah, there you go, Ben. Congratulations. And of course, we'll see how it turns out. But for now, congratulations. And then our final matchup of the week. Uncle Tom, best lineup in football versus Uncle or wow, almost said Uncle John, not John Banks, John Lopp. Tom versus John Lopp. Right off the bat, it's going to be hard to beat Uncle Tom, I think, just so far because he's got Mahomes, who's better than Herbert. He's got Jacobs, who's better than Bijan. Actually, why did I say that? That is completely backwards. Bijan is better than Jacobs in terms of fantasy projections. But if you go historically, yes, of course, Jacobs is better than Bijan. So this one actually could be a little bit of a wash, but Bijan, he's the rookie, he's the high profile rookie everyone's talking about. So I'll give John a pass on that. I'll give John that one. And I'll give John Saquon obviously as well. So look at that, Uncle Tom. I think John's actually got a better running back group than you. So yeah, there you go. John wins running backs. Tom easily wins receivers. Tyreek, he's got Tyreek. John's got Jalen. So Tyreek's gonna be clear number one there. Devontae Smith and Tyler Lockett both clear number two receivers. Devontae is still a young guy going against the Patriots, who tend to do well against the passing game. Tyler Lockett going against the Rams defense, who they lost Jalen Ramsey. So I think Tyler Lockett's got that one. So receivers is kind of kind of a wash. Tyreek Hill wins that one, Tyler Lockett wins that one. Um, Hawkinson, Higbee. I got to go with Hawkinson. Nothing against Higbee, but the Rams offense is kind of similar to the Colts in a way. I mean, they're not going to be as bad as the Colts offense, but they are going to be a bit stale, running out of the gates, in my opinion. That flex, it's interesting that Lop's going with Gabe Davis at flex. Um, although he doesn't really have many of their options now I think about it. So good point. So yeah, because Cooper Kupp, Alvin Kamara, and Jonathan Taylor are all out. So if all three of those are active, there's no way Gabe Davis would be in the starting lineup. So that makes more sense now that I think about it, of course. But Uncle Tom having David Montgomery, I think that's a little. I mean, it's Thursday night, so it looks like he's playing him. It's interesting he's playing him in the flex. I feel like he would have switched him with someone else, but we'll see how that goes. He probably could have played Ayuk. He could have played Watson. I mean, Watson is dealing with an injury, so that's possible. Possible Watson misses. So Uncle Tom's probably just going with the safe play here. Quality starting running back in David Montgomery. So I will take Montgomery in this match if this is the flex matchup. I will take Montgomery over Gabe Davis. And then Bills defense versus the Jags defense. I'm going to go Jags defense just for this match. I mean, Bills have the better overall defense, and kind of similar to what I've said in other matchups. Like in totality, I think Bills does well the whole season, but Jacksonville's playing Indy. I'm gonna go with and plus the Jets. I mean, who knows? Maybe Aaron Rodgers and the Jets are highly dysfunctional and they don't know what to do, and Rodgers gets upset real easily and he starts throwing fits. Like you never know. But for now, I'm gonna go with Jacksonville, and then kicker. I'm gonna go with Daniel Carlson. He's been consistently one of the best kickers in the league, and B, the Chargers seem to always have kicking issues. And I know Cameron Dicker's been, off to a good start in his career, but I don't know, there's always something going on with the Chargers and special teams. I mean, just go back to 2010. But yeah, so with all that said, I had Uncle Tom at kicker, I had John at defense, Uncle Tom here, wash. Uncle John was better running back. So this will be really close. So okay, I don't actually agree with how close it's going to be. I think Tom still does barely edge it out, just because um, Mahomes. I mean, this is a little tough because now that I'm thinking about it, like Mahomes is Travis Kelce's out, so he doesn't have Kelsey. He doesn't have any of his top receivers from last year. Juju is no longer there. Well, he has, I think Marquez is still, yeah, Valdez-Scantling's still there, and they have Sky Moore. So I guess it's Mahomes. Mahomes can pretty much do anything. He's amazing. So I'll still give that edge to Mahomes. But I think it'll be a lot closer than what ESPN thinks. ESPN thinks Tom's going to run away with it. I don't think he'll run away with it, but I still will give the edge to Uncle Tom. So those are my week one predictions. We'll see how it goes. All right. Football season starts in less than an hour, and I'm excited for it. And next episode will be the recap of what happens in week one. Again, I will hold myself accountable. I promise you. I will call myself an idiot every time I'm wrong, and I will call myself a legend for getting it right, even though that seems pretty self-absorbed, but whatever. So, thank you for watching. I'm going to try to get this video out as soon as possible. Hope you guys enjoy the game tonight and enjoy the games over the weekend. All right. This has been the Danker Family Fantasy Football Podcast. Peace out.